My niece stole my husband, and you won't believe how it all ended. I never imagined that opening the doors of my house would be like inviting my own destruction. That the niece I cared for like my own daughter would end up stealing everything I loved, starting with the man I had spent 20 years with. Before continuing, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and tell me where you're watching from. My name is Sophia, I'm 38 years old, and for a long time I believed my life was exactly what it should be. A house with a garden on the outskirts of Monterey, a husband who came home every afternoon with the newspaper under his arm, 2 teenage children who filled the house with music and laughter. Nothing extraordinary, I know. But it was mine. It was real. And I had built it with my own hands, day after day, without complaining, without asking for anything in return. Rodrigo and I met when we were just 22 years old. He worked at a hardware store, and I had just finished my accounting degree. We fell in love in that simple, honest way that almost doesn't exist anymore. No big promises, no drama. Just 2 people who decided to walk together. We got married the following year in a small ceremony, with our families and a few friends. I remember my mom crying all day, and my sister Lucia, who was just 19 at the time, helped me comb my hair in front of her bedroom mirror. "You're going to be so happy, Sophie," he said as he adjusted my veil. "You deserve it more than anyone." And I was. For many years, I was. Rodrigo got a job at a construction company, and I opened a small accounting office from home. Our children, Santiago and Valeria, were born. Life became a routine of rushed breakfasts, homework, and Saturday and Sunday soccer games at my parents' house. It was a predictable life, yes. But it was also secure. And I valued that more than anything else. My sister Lucia, on the other hand, was always different. More restless, more rebellious. She dated men my parents disapproved of, changed jobs every 6 months, and dreamed of moving to Mexico City or Guadalajara. "I don't want to end up like you, Sophie," she once told me during an argument. "Trapped in a house, cooking for a man who doesn't even see you." Her words hurt me, though I tried not to show it. Because deep down, I knew Lucia didn't mean anything by it. She simply didn't understand that happiness doesn't always have to be loud. That sometimes it's found in the small, everyday things. When Lucia became pregnant at 23, the whole family was plunged into crisis. The father of the child was a musician who played in bars, an older man who disappeared as soon as he heard the news. My parents were furious and ashamed. But I only felt sadness for my sister. I saw her cry so many nights, wondering if she'd be able to raise that baby alone. "You'll be able to do it," I said, taking her hands. "And I'll be here to help you." And I kept my word. When Daniela was born, I was present at the hospital. I held her in my arms and felt something strange, a mixture of tenderness and concern. She was so small, so fragile. She had my sister's dark eyes and a serious expression that made me smile. During the first few years, Lucia tried hard to be a good mother. She got a job at a department store, left Daniela with my parents during the day and picked her up at night. But I knew it was difficult for her. That each month was a struggle to pay the rent, buy diapers, and milk. So I helped her when I could. I gave her money, bought her clothes, and treated her to Sunday lunch. "You're too good to me," Lucia told me. "I don't know what I'd do without you." But over time, things began to change. Lucia started going out more, leaving Daniela with us for days at a time. She said she needed to work overtime, that she had commitments. But I knew that wasn't entirely true. I saw her in Facebook photos, in bars, at parties, surrounded by people we didn't know. "She's trying to regain her youth," Rodrigo told me one night. "Let her. She'll grow up." But she didn't mature. On the contrary. When Daniela was 7, Lucia met a man in Guadalajara. A businessman, she claimed. Someone who offered her a better life. And without a second thought, she decided to go with him. "It'll only be for a while," he told me when he came to say goodbye. "I need to stabilize, Sophie. I need to build something for myself and Daniela." "And the girl?" I asked. "What's going to happen to her?" Lucia looked down. "Could you keep her?" "Just for a few months. Until I get a bigger place, a stable job. I promise, I'll come for her." I looked at Daniela, who was playing in the garden with my children. She was a quiet girl with a sad look. And at that moment, I knew I couldn't say no to my sister. Because if I did, what would become of that little girl? "Okay," I finally said. "But promise me you'll come back for her." Lucia hugged me tightly. "I promise." That was the last time I saw her. Months passed, and Lucia didn't return. She called occasionally, always with excuses. That work was more complicated than she thought, that the man she was living with didn't want children in the house, that she needed more time. And meanwhile, Daniela grew up with us. She grew accustomed to our routine, to our home. She started calling me Aunt Sophie in a voice that sounded more and more like that of a daughter. Rodrigo and I treated her as if she were our own. We enrolled her in the same school as Santiago and Valeria, bought her clothes, took her to the dentist, and helped her with her homework. And although at first it was difficult adjusting to having another person in the house, over time it felt natural. As if she'd always been there. "She's a good girl," Rodrigo said. "Quiet, but good." And she was right. Daniela was obedient, studious. She never caused any trouble. But there was also something about her that unsettled me. A sadness that wouldn't go away, a way of looking at me as if she were expecting something I couldn't give her. When Daniela turned 12, Lucia stopped calling completely. She changed her number, deleted her social media accounts. It was as if she had evaporated. My parents tried to look for her, but they found nothing. And I had to sit down with Daniela and explain that her mom wasn't coming back. That we were her family now. "Why did you leave me?" she asked, tears in her eyes. "What did I do wrong?" "You didn't do anything wrong, my love," I said, hugging her. "Sometimes adults make bad decisions. But that doesn't mean I don't love you." Although deep down, I myself doubted those words. The years passed. Daniela grew into a beautiful teenager. She had my sister's long, dark hair, the same big eyes, the same smile that could light up a room. But she had also inherited something else from Lucia. That restlessness, that need for attention. At 16, Daniela began to change. She became vainer, more conscious of her appearance. She spent hours in front of the mirror, trying on clothes, putting on makeup. And although at first I thought it was normal, part of growing up, I soon realized there was something more. "Auntie, do you think I look pretty?" she kept asking me. "Of course, my love. You're beautiful." But it never seemed like enough. He always needed more confirmation, more attention. The problems began when Daniela started using Valeria's clothes without permission. My daughter complained, saying that Daniela was stealing her things. I tried to mediate, explaining to Daniela that she should ask permission before taking something that wasn't hers. But she just shrugged. "Valeria has so many things," he said. "I don't think she cares." "But he does care," I replied. "And you have to respect that." Then there were the lies. Small ones at first. She said she'd gone to a friend's house when she'd actually been somewhere else. That she'd gotten good grades when her report card said otherwise. I tried to be understanding, to remember that she was a teenager going through a difficult time. But Rodrigo was starting to get impatient. "You give him too much freedom," he told me. "He needs limits." "It's just not easy for her," I replied. "Her mother abandoned her. She's trying to find her place." "And you're trying to be her mom," he countered. "But you're not. And she knows it." Her words hurt because they contained some truth. I loved Daniela as if she were my own daughter, but she never called me mom. I was always Aunt Sophie. And although I understood why, sometimes I wondered if that distance was what made her feel so lost. When Daniela turned 18, we threw her a party. We invited her friends, decorated the house, and bought a huge cake. She was radiant that night, wearing a tight dress I had bought her and her hair loose over her shoulders. Rodrigo joked that we'd have to scare the boys away with a stick. "She's not a little girl anymore," he told me as we danced. "She's become a full-fledged woman." And she was right. Daniela was no longer the quiet girl who had arrived at our home 11 years earlier. She was a self-confident young woman, aware of the impact she had on others. But I didn't know then that that security hid something darker. A need for validation so deep that I was willing to get it at any cost. It all started so subtly that I didn't notice at first. Small changes in the household dynamics that seemed insignificant. Daniela started staying up late, watching TV in the living room when Rodrigo came home from work. She offered to make him coffee, to warm up his dinner if I had already gone to sleep. "How lovely Daniela is," Rodrigo told me. "Always so attentive." And I smiled, proud that my niece had grown into such a thoughtful young woman. But then I started to notice other things. The way Daniela dressed up more when she knew Rodrigo would be home. The way she sat next to him on the couch, closer than necessary. The laughs they shared, the glances they exchanged. At first, I tried to convince myself I was imagining things. That they were just my insecurities, my own fears. Rodrigo and I had been together for 20 years. We'd been through difficult times, yes. Times when routine had distanced us, when conversations were limited to the practical. But we'd always found a way to come back to each other. Or not. One night, I woke up after 2 in the morning and noticed Rodrigo wasn't in bed. I got up, thinking maybe he was in the bathroom or had gone downstairs to get some water. But when I went downstairs, I found him in the kitchen. With Daniela. They were talking in low voices, almost whispering. Daniela was wearing short pajamas, the kind I'd asked her not to wear outside her room. And Rodrigo? Rodrigo was looking at her in a way that made something inside me break. "What are you doing awake?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. They both jumped. Daniela hurried to cover herself with a robe that was lying on the chair. I couldn't sleep, she said. And neither could your husband. We were just talking. What about? I insisted, looking at Rodrigo. He shrugged. Nothing important. Work stuff. But there was something about his tone that didn't quite sit right with me. Something forced, awkward. It's late, I finally said. Daniela, go to your room. Rodrigo, come to bed. That night I couldn't go back to sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling doubt settle in my chest like a stone. I tried to tell myself I was overreacting, that nothing had happened. But a part of me knew something had changed. The next few days were strange. Rodrigo started coming home from work later, always with excuses. That there was traffic, that he had things to do, that his boss had asked him to stay longer. And Daniela? Daniela seemed happier than ever. She sang while she got ready, smiled for no reason, and spent hours on her phone. Do you have a boyfriend? I asked him one day, trying to sound casual. She looked at me with an enigmatic smile. Something like that. Something like that? What does that mean? It means there's someone who makes me feel special, she said. Someone who truly sees me. Her words worried me. But I didn't want to pressure her. I thought maybe it was better for her to have someone in her life, someone who would make her feel loved. I didn't know that someone was my husband. The truth came in the cruelest way possible. One afternoon, while cleaning the living room, I found Rodrigo's phone forgotten on the sofa. Normally, I never checked his things. I trusted him. But that day, something compelled me to unlock it. And there they were. The messages. Hundreds of messages between Rodrigo and Daniela. Conversations that stretched for weeks, maybe months. Words that should never have been written. Promises that should never have been made. You are the most beautiful thing that has ever happened to me, read one of Rodrigo's messages. I can't stop thinking about you, Daniela replied. When I'm with you, it will all be worth it. I love you. More than I've ever loved anyone. I read each message with trembling hands. My heart shattering. There were photos too. Photos of Daniela I should never have seen. And replies from Rodrigo that made me feel nauseous. I don't know how long I sat there on the couch, holding my phone. It could have been an hour, or 5 minutes. Time lost meaning. When Rodrigo arrived that night, I was waiting for him in the kitchen, with my phone on the table. Explain it to me, I said in a voice I didn't recognize as my own. Explain to me how you could do this to me. His face turned pale. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. How long? I persisted. How long have you been sleeping with my niece? Sophia, I. Answer. 3 months, he finally said, his voice breaking. It started 3 months ago. 3 months. 3 months in which I had continued cooking for him, washing his clothes, sleeping next to him. 3 months in which I had been the perfect wife while he cheated on me with the little girl I had raised as my own. Why? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. Why did you do it? Rodrigo ran his hands over his face. I don't know. At first, it was just conversation. She listened to me. She made me feel seen. I listened to you, I said, feeling the tears begin to fall. For 20 years I listened to you. I know. But it's not the same. With her, it's different. It's younger? I interrupted. Prettier? More exciting? Don't say that. So what do you want me to say, Rodrigo? That I'm happy for you? That I wish you the best? He shook his head. I know there's no excuse for what I did. I know I hurt you in the worst way possible. But I need you to understand that I didn't plan for this to happen. It just happened. Nothing just happens, I replied. You chose this. Every text, every encounter, every lie. You chose it. At that moment, Daniela came down the stairs. She must have heard the argument because her face was pale, her eyes filled with tears. Aunt Sophie, Don't call me that, I said, feeling anger replace the hurt. You no longer have the right to call me that. Please let me explain. Explain what to me? How did you seduce the husband of the only person who took care of you when your own mother abandoned you? Daniela recoiled as if I'd hit her. It wasn't like that. I didn't seduce him. We fell in love. I laughed, but there was no humor in that sound. Only bitterness. Falling in love? Is that what they call it now? It's true, she insisted. I love him. And he loves me. She's 39 years old, Daniela. You could be her daughter. But I'm not. I'm a grown woman. And I have the right to be with whoever I want. Even if he's your aunt's husband? Even if he's the man who gave you a home when you had none? Daniela lifted her chin defiantly. You don't understand. You'll never understand what it's like to feel invisible. To spend years being the girl no one wanted. The one her own mother abandoned. The one who was always less important than your children. Less important? I gave you everything. Everything I had. You gave me a roof over my head, he corrected me. Food, clothing, school. But you never gave me what I really needed. You never made me feel like I mattered as much as Santiago or Valeria. Her words took my breath away. Because there was some truth in them. Something I'd tried to ignore for years. Yes, I'd taken care of Daniela. But there was always a difference, an invisible line separating my children from her. And although I'd never said it out loud, she'd felt it. So this is my fault, I said slowly. Is that what you're saying? That you slept with my husband because I didn't make you feel loved enough? I'm not saying it's your fault, Daniela replied. I'm just saying that Rodrigo sees me in a way no one else ever does. He makes me feel special. Important. He's a married man, I reminded him. With children. With a family. A family that no longer makes him happy, Rodrigo chimed in. Sophia, I know this is horrible. I know I'm hurting you. But I can't keep pretending. I can't keep living a lie. A lie? I repeated. Is our life together a lie? It wasn't, he said, and for the first time I saw something resembling regret in his eyes. But it is now. Because I'm not the same man I was. And you deserve someone who loves you the way you deserve to be loved. Don't you dare, I said, feeling the anger welling up again. Don't you dare make me believe this is for my own good. It's not for your sake, he admitted. It's for mine. Because for the first time in years, I feel alive. And I know that hurts you. I know it's selfish. But I can't give this up. I looked at Daniela, who was standing next to him. So young, so beautiful, so confident. And for a moment, I felt something I'd never felt before. Not just anger or pain. But also envy. Envy of her youth, her freedom, her ability to take what she wanted without thinking about the consequences. I want you to leave, I said finally. Both of you. Tonight. Sophia. Let them go. And they left. Rodrigo packed some things in a suitcase while I locked myself in my room, trying not to hear the sounds of his departure. Daniela also gathered her belongings, though before leaving, she knocked on my door. Aunt Sophie, he said from the other end. I know you hate me. And I understand. But I want you to know that I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted to be happy. I didn't answer. I sat on the bed, staring at the wall, until I heard the front door close. And then, only then, I allowed myself to cry. The days that followed were the darkest of my life. Santiago and Valeria were devastated. They couldn't understand how their father had been capable of such a thing. How Daniela, whom they had considered their sister, had betrayed them like that. How could you not have noticed? Valeria asked me one night, tears in her eyes. How could you not have seen what was happening? And I had no answer. Because the truth was, I had seen the signs. But I had chosen to ignore them. I had chosen to believe my family was strong enough to withstand anything. My parents were devastated when they found out. My mother cried for days, blaming herself for not having been stricter with Lucia, for not having raised her daughter better. My father, on the other hand, shut himself off in a furious silence. He didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to hear Daniela's name. There was always something strange about that girl, he finally said. Something I didn't like. But I knew it wasn't fair to blame Daniela alone. Rodrigo was a grown man. He had made the decision to destroy our family. And although the pain I felt toward him was immense, there was also a part of me that understood that our marriage had been slowly dying for years. We had stopped truly speaking to each other. Touching each other. Looking into each other's eyes. We had become two strangers sharing a house, a bed, a routine. And maybe, just maybe, Daniela had seen that rift and decided to take advantage of it. Or maybe she was just a confused young woman looking for love in the wrong place. Weeks passed before I heard from them again. Rodrigo called me to talk about the divorce, about the division of assets, about how we would handle the situation with the children. His voice sounded different on the phone. Younger, lighter. As if a weight had been lifted. Are you happy? I asked him in a moment of weakness. There was a long pause. Yes, he said finally. I am. And although his words hurt me, they also freed me in a way. Because I realized I no longer had to fight for a love that had ceased to exist. Daniela, for her part, sent me a long message apologizing. She explained that she had never meant to hurt me, that things had simply gotten out of control. She understood if I could never forgive her, but she hoped that one day I would understand that what I felt for Rodrigo was real. I didn't answer him. Because there was nothing to say. Months passed. The divorce was finalized. Rodrigo and Daniela moved together into an apartment downtown. And I had to learn to live again. At first, it was difficult. There were days when I didn't want to get out of bed. Days when I looked at old photos and wondered when everything had fallen apart. But little by little, with the help of my children, my parents, and some friends who never abandoned me, I began to rebuild myself. I went back to working more at my accounting firm. I took on new clients, bigger projects. I signed up for yoga classes. I started going out more, allowing myself to smile again. And one night, while I was eating dinner alone in my kitchen, I realized something. That for the first time in 20 years, I was living for myself. Not to be the perfect wife, not to be the doting aunt. Just to be Sophia. A year after the breakup, I ran into Daniela at the supermarket. It was completely unexpected. I was in the dairy aisle when I saw her. She was still beautiful, but there was something different about her. Something tired. Our eyes met. For a moment, I thought he'd turn around and walk away. But instead, he slowly approached. "Hello, Aunt Sophie," he said in a soft voice. "Hello, Daniela." There was an awkward silence. She played with her car keys, avoiding my gaze. "How are you?" he finally asked. "Fine," I replied. And it was true. "And you?" She shrugged. "Surviving." There was something in her tone that made me look at her more closely. And then I saw it. The dark circles under her eyes, the paleness, the way her hands trembled slightly. "Are you okay?" I asked, surprising myself with the genuine concern in my voice. Daniela shook her head. "No. I'm not. Rodrigo and we're not okay." I didn't say anything. I just waited. "At first it was perfect," she continued. "We were happy. But then he started to change. He became distant. Critical. He compared me to you all the time. He said you knew how to cook, that you kept the house clean, that you understood what he needed." His words surprised me. And they also saddened me. "I'm sorry," I said, although I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. "Don't be sorry," she replied. "I chose this. I destroyed your family for a man who turned out to be not what I thought." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Sometimes I think about leaving. About starting over somewhere else. But then I remember I have no one. My mom never came back. You hate me. Your family hates me. And I just wanted to be loved." I looked at this young woman who had destroyed my life. And for the first time, I didn't feel anger. Only sadness. Sadness for her, for me, for all of us. "I don't hate you, Daniela," I said. "I'm angry. Hurt. But I don't hate you." She looked up, surprised. "Really? Really? Because despite everything, you're still the little girl I took care of for 11 years. And that little girl deserves to be happy. Even if the way she pursued that happiness was wrong." Daniela started to cry. And before I could stop myself, I hugged her. I hugged her like I had so many times when she was little. And I felt her body shake with sobs. "I'm so sorry," she whispered through tears. "I'm so sorry." "I know," I said. "Me too." We stayed like that for a moment, two women broken by the same decisions, by the same man. And when we finally parted, there was something different between us. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. But it was the beginning of something. Maybe understanding. Maybe peace. "Take care, Daniela," I told her before leaving. "You too, Aunt Sophie." And as I walked toward my car, I realized that for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could breathe fully. It's been 2 years since that night when everything fell apart. Rodrigo and Daniela ended up separating 6 months after my encounter with her at the supermarket. He tried to get back together, calling me in tears, asking for forgiveness, begging for a second chance. But I had already closed that door. Daniela moved to Querétaro. She got a job in an office and, according to my mother, is trying to rebuild her life. We haven't spoken again, but I sometimes think about her. I wonder if she's finally found the peace she's been searching for. My children are fine. Santiago is in college, studying engineering. Valeria is in her final year of high school, dreaming of becoming a veterinarian. They have both learned to forgive their father, although their relationship will never be the same. And I'm learning to be happy again. To find joy in the little things. In quiet mornings with my coffee, in Sunday afternoons with my parents, in movie nights with my kids. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I had never opened the doors of my house to Daniela. If I had said no when Lucia asked me to babysit for her. Would I still be married to Rodrigo? Would we be happy? But the truth is, I don't know. And it doesn't matter anymore. Because I learned something important in these 2 years. I learned that love isn't always enough. That sometimes the people we love most are the ones who hurt us the most. And that it's okay to let go, even when it hurts. I also learned that forgiveness isn't something you give immediately. It's a process. A long and difficult path that you take step by step, day by day. And while there are still days when I feel anger, when I cry for what I lost, there are also days when I smile for what I found. I found my strength. My voice. My ability to be alone without feeling empty. And that, in the end, is worth more than any marriage held together only out of habit. I don't know what the future holds for Daniela. I don't know if she'll ever find the love she so desperately seeks, if she'll ever heal the wounds her mother left her. But I wish her the best. Because despite everything, she's still the little girl I once cared for as if she were my own. And as for Rodrigo, he's still the father of my children. And that's enough. I don't need him to be anything more. I don't need him to be my husband, my partner, my love. I just need him to be a good father. And so far, he's trying. A few weeks ago, I came across an old photo. It was from the day Daniela first arrived at our house. She was 7 years old, her hair tied back in pigtails, her eyes wide and scared. And I was standing next to her, smiling, my hand on her shoulder. I looked at that photo for a long time. And I realized that Sophia, the woman who believed that love and kindness were always enough, no longer exists. She's been replaced by someone stronger, wiser, more aware that the world isn't always fair. But I also realized something else. That I don't regret opening the doors of my home that day. Because even though Daniela took a lot from me, she also taught me something invaluable. He taught me that I can survive the worst. That I can rebuild after everything falls apart. That I am stronger than I ever imagined. And that lesson, however painful it may have been, is worth all the suffering. I learned that giving someone shelter doesn't always save that person, but sometimes it saves you from living a life that was no longer real.